Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pulse Life Advocates Christmas Gala. How's your meal? Well, we know you're going to love yours down there. Thank you very much for that. My name is Tom Quiner. I'm president of the board for Pulse Life Advocates and your MC for this evening. You know, I don't know about you, but I love a Christmas gala because a Christmas gala reminds us that human life matters because God was born as a man to walk among us. And a Christmas gala reminds us that human life is sacred and wonderful because God wasn't born in a fancy schmancy mansion. He was born in a lowly manger in a backwater town in Israel. And what that means is that whether you're rich or poor, whether you're born or unborn, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, you matter. And that's wonderful to contemplate. And a Christmas gala reminds us that this is a night to forget about our problems. Just for one night, let's forget about our problems and simply use the opportunity to rejoice, just as a choir of angels rejoiced when the baby Jesus was born in Bethlehem 2,000 years ago. So on that note, it seems fitting that we start tonight's program with one of the most beautiful and wonderful Christmas songs ever written, performed by the hottest band in Iowa, the Saints and Sinners Band. The Saints and, yes, we got them here. With vocals led by Marilyn Jerome and her two daughters, Sarah and Hannah, and their friend Elise Kerr. Would you please welcome the Saints and Sinners Band?
Our dear Savior's birth.
Thank you, ladies and saints and sinners, for such beautiful music. And speaking of saints and sinners, we have a number of dignitaries in our midst tonight whom Pulse would like to acknowledge. Please hold your applause until I finish reading this list. Representative John Dunwell, Representative Steve Holt, Representative Bill Gustav, Representative Dan Gelbach, whose wife Stacy, by the way, is on our gala committee, Representative Eddie Andrews, who has taken more selfies tonight than anyone else in the room, Senator Jesse Green, Representative Luana Stoltenberg, former Senator and President of the Iowa Senate Charles Schneider, Alan Ostergren of the Kirkwood Institute, Martin Cannon of the Thomas More Society, Alan Parker, President of the Justice Foundation, and of course, last but not least, best-selling author Monsignor Frank Bagnano, whose book, 3 Minutes with God, is selling faster than they could be printed. Please welcome our luminaries. And I'll let you dissect that list as to who are the saints and who are the sinners. We have a few announcements for you. Announcement number one, we have raffle tickets on sale for the most beautiful nativity scene ever created. Just so you know, this is not available in the state of Florida, but you can get it here in Iowa tonight. And we have a table, I believe it's over here, where you can go and buy your raffle tickets. You are allowed to get up at any point tonight to buy raffle tickets, although you are not allowed to use restrooms unless you are buying a raffle ticket. We also have an online auction going on, and one of the online auction items is barbecue, bourbon, and cigars at the Quiner household in the heart of Beaverdale, Iowa. This is for a group of 10 people who like to have fun. So that's something for you to consider tonight, and we are serving beef brisket. It is the best beef brisket in the world. Again, you can't get this in Florida because it's Iowa corn-fed beef and my wife's secret recipe. We also have a live auction coming up later tonight, I wanted to mention, which is for a great one-week vacation for your entire family at a beautiful home on Lake Okoboji. So that's coming up shortly. Wow. Rumor has it that our next speaker went into this business for the big bucks it pays her and for the slobbering adulation she receives from a fawning culture. Rumor has it that our next speaker drives a Lamborghini to the country club every day of the week. Rumor has it, oh my goodness, I'm reading the wrong introduction. This is for the executive director at Planned Parenthood. Sorry, let me start over. Our next speaker is a woman with guts who is paid a pittance to get pummeled on a daily basis by a culture that loathes her for standing up for the most vulnerable members of our society, the unborn. And she does it during the week, oftentimes on weekends, like this weekend and last one and the one before that, day and night. And you know what's really crazy about this woman? There is no other work in the world that would satisfy her any more than that. Would you please join me in welcoming to the stage the Executive Director of Pulse Life Advocates, Maggie DeWitty.
Thank you. My goodness. Thank you. Aw. Thank you. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to Ryan Buck for producing this powerful video from our first post-Roe Iowa March for Life. You know, I've watched this video several times, And I was hoping that I could avoid the tears, but they just keep coming. It's so powerful, and it just puts everything in perspective because this is about life, and there can't be anything bigger than that. Pulse Life Advocates, Iowa's longest standing statewide pro-life organization. I feel incredibly proud in the most humblest of ways, and blessed and honored to be working and fighting for life on behalf of Pulse for the last 13 years. Thank you to our gala committee for putting on this wonderful event, and to our board of directors. If you're a board member, can you please stand up and be acknowledged for all the great work you do for this organization? And a special thanks to our staff, Sarah Schultz and Tom and Karen Quiner. And most importantly, thanks all to you for coming tonight. You know, every year in preparation for my time with you this evening, I get an opportunity to evaluate what worked, what can be improved, and ultimately, did we move the needle? Did we change hearts and minds? And I always have that knee-jerk reaction of I could have done more. I could have done more. And then I'm reminded of the words of Saint Mother Teresa of Calcutta. God did not call me to be successful. God called me to be faithful. And so it is with all of you. We are living in a post-Roe America, thank God. And while it was the biggest victory the pro-life movement has seen in 50 years, our fight does continue. It's just in different ways. And Pulse is there every step of the way. You know, the election a few weeks ago left the pro-life movement in shock. In Ohio, for example, 57% of the voters led to a double-digit win for a radical proposal amending the state constitution to sanction abortion with no limits from the moment of birth. And pro-lifers in that state were outspent 2-1. Coupled with deceptive media that ran pro-choice, TV ads that just downright lied to Ohio voters. The other side is masterful at disguising and sanitizing and lying to the American people about what abortion really is. They use words like reproductive freedom and women's rights to confuse people about what is really happening in an abortion. The horrific, violent, and traumatic end of a life in the womb. There is no other way to describe it except pure evil. The pro-life movement needs to give America a positive vision for protecting life instead of talking about a removal of a so-called right. We focused so long and hard on the legal end, we need now to focus on the moral end. It's almost like we've been apologizing for the Dobbs decision and talking about moderation on life. Let's be absolutely clear. The other side is not seeking compromise or moderation. They are pushing extreme, radical death for any reason. The abortion industry's mantra used to be safe, legal, and rare. Now it's infanticide, and taxpayers should foot the bill. But we will win when we expose the extremism of the other side and contrast it with the compassion and love of the pro-life movement. There can be no consensus or compromise with murder, period, full stop. And it is not a political liability to be pro-life, and it is not a losing issue. Life begins at conception, and there's nothing complicated about that. It's right and it's wrong, and we need to speak with moral confidence on this issue. We must be unafraid. It's either killing a baby or it isn't, and we can't tiptoe around this issue any longer. And we at Pulse are not going to. And for those of you who know me, I'm about as subtle as a sledgehammer, and I am just going to keep pounding and pounding on this issue until the message of life is out there loud and clear. This summer, we had a special session thanks to our incredible pro-life governor, Kim Reynolds. Where, of course, we passed for the second time the heartbeat bill, and Pulse was there. We testified, we rallied, we prayed, and we witnessed. When the Des Moines City Council tried to make abortion a city issue, Pulse was there. When women go to Planned Parenthood, Pulse is there praying and witnessing. And when Iowans visit the state fair, we are there educating. When people across the country travel to Washington, D.C. for the March for Life, Pulse is there. When your children need education on the issues, Pulse is there with our curriculum. And when anyone needs any up-to-date information on pro-life issues, we're there with our cutting-edge website, weekly blogs, and our rich social media content. Our newest video project is called How to Raise Pro-Life Children, and the theme of our evening tonight. Here's a short trailer of our new project. We asked moms and dads, husbands and wives, clergy and laity, and saints and sinners 2 simple questions. How do you raise pro-life children? Or, how did your parents raise you to become pro-life?
It really does come down to teaching your kids about that conversation with God, that daily conversation with God called prayer.
We have to speak for those that have no voice at this point.
If you are pro-life, don't be afraid to say that. Never be ashamed for the way that you feel and the way that our faith is shaped, the way we view world issues.
My dad took me twice to Washington, D.C., to the March for Life. We just were like, wow, this is something else, and it really planted that seed.
And all 6 of our kids went multiple times, and I think it was really positive for our kids to see what a peaceful, joyful, huge movement we were a part of.
We always taught our kids that life is a good and precious gift from God, and it's not for anybody else to take away.
This is what you've come to expect from Pulse. We are not fighting for a hypothetical or an ideal. We're fighting for people's lives. And you're all here tonight because you know this. You know in your heart that this is the greatest human rights issue of our time, and that you know without us standing in the gap, more lives will be destroyed by the lie of abortion. Pulse is in it for the long haul. Heck, we've been fighting for 50 years. We're not going to stop now. And we're not going to be disheartened, and we're not going to back down. You heard me talk about some of the losses that we've experienced across the country. The prevailing theme in all of those losses was a lack of financial resources and being outspent by large margins. I'm begging you tonight, do not let Iowa become Ohio. Commit tonight to join Pulse in our work to create a culture of life. Commit tonight to help us in our efforts and support us with your time and your talent and your treasure. I promise you that we will not give up until we have equal protection under the law, which includes our preborn brothers and sisters. In today's society, the value of human life has been diminished, but God, who sees the works of his hands with enduring love, whispers to each of you his plan and purpose for your time here on earth. He speaks to your heart and tells you what work he has committed to you that he's not committed to another. He tells us that our life has meaning and value. He reminds us that we are only dust, but we are beloved dust. Please pray for us. We need it. Thank you, and God bless. I now have the privilege of introducing our board treasurer, Kim Grivach.
Thank you, Maggie. It's always nice to be in a room of like-minded people. I am the treasurer, as Maggie stated, and it is my job to oversee our finances and remind you that we are here for an evening out to enjoy like-mindedness, to be inspired to grow pro-life families, and to give. This is our biggest fundraiser of the year. What we raise tonight gets us through the next 365 days. Oh, 366. Did you know next year's a leap year? So how can you help? Well, let's start with the free. Yes, you heard me right. I said free. Give of your time and talent. Pray. Pray and fast one day a month for Pulse. Today, the 18th, is actually my day to pray and fast for Pulse. I have not had any caffeine. I did have dessert. Pray for the strength and protection for our staff. Pray for our increased outreach. Pray for increased funding resources. Volunteer. Give of your time and talent. Sometimes it's just data entry that needs to be done in the office. Assembling takeaways. Serve on a committee. Isn't this a wonderful event? You could be a part of it. The March for Life in DC has a committee. Volunteer at the state fair. How many of you have volunteered at the state fair? I volunteer my kids and bring them with. That's part of how I'm trying to raise a pro-life family. And it is so heartwarming when those little kids come up, hold the baby models, and take away a baby of their own, because they know it's a baby. The auction, still happening right now. Have you bid? Did you know you can just increase someone else's bid and raise more money for Pulse? I once raised an extra $500 doing just that. There were some tricks. Yes, you have to be prepared to pay if you win, but $5, $10, come on, bid up. And then there's the money out of your pocket. I think of the widow's offering from Mark chapter 12, verses 41 to 44. Jesus sat down opposite the place where the offerings were put and watched the crowd putting their money into the temple treasury. Many rich people threw in large amounts, but a poor widow came and put in 2 very small copper coins, worth only a few cents. Calling his disciples to him, Jesus said, "Truly, I tell you, this poor widow has put more into the treasury than all the others. They all gave out of their wealth, but she, out of her poverty, put in everything, all she had to live on." So how can you fast in your routine life to be more like the widow? Raise your hand if you like drive-through coffee. I actually don't. So I had to ask my daughter, what's a venti coffee cost these days? And she told me $7. Wow. Can you fast for Pulse and give up one drive-through coffee a month? 7 times 12 is $94. Can you make that commitment today? Maybe it's a pizza night that you have with your family. We have a pizza night. Instead of that carry-out pizza, get the frozen one from the store. $18 versus $8. You've just saved $10, and you can tell your family that you're giving that extra $10 to Pulse, part of raising that pro-life family. $10 times 12 months is $120. Can you commit to that tonight? Lunch. Do you ever eat lunch out? Sometimes I do it on purpose just to get out of the office. $12 lunch, if I commit on my day of fasting and prayer for Pulse to bring a peanut butter and jelly instead, $12 times 12 months, $144, maybe I could do that twice a month. I actually have 2 days, the 9th and the 18th, that I pray for Pulse. All right, somebody plug my husband's ears. Nails. Ladies, do you do every other week? Men, maybe you go every 2 weeks? These are 4-week nails, and I'm glad it's dark in here. I go every 4 weeks. So instead of 26 times a year, I go 13 times a year times $50, that's $650. Can you commit $650 and get your nails done once a month instead of every other week? One more way you can bring your family into this. Do you have DirecTV? Antenna TV these days is amazing. It's what we have in our house. There are several channels. So if you have a basic plan, $70 a month, you give it up, you tell your family this is what we're doing for Pulse times 12 months, that's $840. Can you make that level of commitment today? Does your business have a corporate match? It's always nice when you can let your employer know you gave money and then they match it. You just doubled your donation. One last way, if you are looking at your life estate planning, Sue McEntee from the Catholic Foundation of Southwest Iowa has a booth with information about legacy giving options for Pulse Life advocates. And like Maggie, I have a quote from Mother Teresa. "It is a poverty to decide that a child must die so that you may live as you wish." How can you pray and fast for Pulse today? There are envelopes on your table. You can go to our website. We make it really easy. I now have the pleasure to introduce our next song to you. It was written specifically for tonight, and it is called "This Side of Heaven."
So before we begin, I just want to say thank you to Pulse for giving me the opportunity to share this song. It was written by my son Matthew, and it's truly a blessing to be able to share it with you tonight. Here I am every day I grow. You count all my fingers and my toes. I cannot wait to see your smile. Someday soon the whole world will know. This side of heaven, I'll be gazing in your eyes. You and Daddy will teach me about life. I'll have questions, you'll have answers. But sometimes you won't know. I look forward to our life together. This side of heaven. My body, my choice. That's what you heard. A bird tonight become. Who gets the choice? Would my voice have changed their mind? That side snuffed out the light, taken from your womb. This side, come to the light. I'm walking out the tube. This side of heaven, I see with perfect eyes. I'm with the Father who gives eternal life. I have questions, He has answers. He always knows. I look forward to our life together. This side of heaven. Holy innocents, pray for us. All the angels, pray for us. All saints in heaven, pray for us. Pray for the mamas and daddies too. Pray for all children, that's what we must do. I hope one day I'll see your face. I know you love this place. Until then, I'll be loving you this side of heaven. Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so.
Thank you, Saints and Sinners. Thank you, Marilyn Jerome, for such a beautiful song. You know, music is such a great way for us to pray and to reveal the beauty of human life. That was a lovely song. Marilyn, is it okay with you if we publish your lyrics on the Pulse Life Advocates website?
I would be honored.
Great, and thank you. And this was a real family affair. Marilyn, her 2 daughters, and her son wrote the lyrics. We'll have ambassadors coming around to pick up the pledge cards that we put at your table. Thank you, Kim Grivach, for telling us more about Pulse and ways that we can give more. One of the ways you can give more is to buy a raffle ticket for the most beautiful nativity scene ever created in the history of the human race, as I mentioned earlier. We also have an online auction going on, and there is one item I'm going to ask you not to bid on. And that's Dinner for 4 with Iowa Attorney General Brenna Bird at the Rusty Duck in Dexter, Iowa, because I'm bidding on it. And if you all jump in, you're going to ace me out of this, because I'd really like to have dinner with Brenna. So Brenna, I'm hoping that we can pull it off. But you have an opportunity, and fill out your pledge cards, and again, they'll be coming around to pick them up shortly. And we thank you in advance for all you're able to do to support our pro-life educational outreach. Our next speaker has had a profound political and cultural impact on Iowa. Bob Vander Plaats is president and CEO of the Family Leader. His passionate leadership for the betterment of America's family has earned the Family Leader the CitizenLink Family Champion Award, and Bob's voice for the family is frequently sought by a vast array of media outlets. If you're watching Fox News in the last night or two, you heard Bob Vander Plaats' name being mentioned. Bob and the Family Leader are invaluable allies to Pulse Life Advocates and the Iowa Coalition of Pro-Life Leaders. Would you please welcome Bob Vander Plaats.
Well, good evening. What a pleasure to be here on behalf of Pulse Life. The Family Leader is thrilled to partner with Pulse Life. Usually they invite a Dutch guy up, and I'm the one who gets to make the ask. You know, ask the guys, everybody for money, but I'm glad Kim got that job. Tell you, Pulse Life and the Family Leader, the reason that we're bonded together is because of the truth. In today's age, it seems like everybody's got a truth. Your truth, my truth, her truth, his truth, everybody's got a truth. But the sanctity of human life is not about my truth or your truth. It's about God's truth. And we read in Psalm 139 that He knit us together in our mother's womb. And He ordained each and every day before one comes to be. And that compels us to do everything we can to stand in the gap for the sanctity of human life, for the unborn, for the mom, for the dad, for the community, for the church, who's all caught up together in a crisis situation, but to deliver that life. You know, knowing that truth and going to a Christian school and being raised in a Christian home, I knew that truth. And that truth was my position on the sanctity of human life. My parents didn't give me a choice. Well, if I was going to be pro-life or pro-choice, I was going to be pro-life, so that was my position. But one day, that position became very personal. Yesterday, I talked about when it became a position to a conviction. This is when it becomes from a position to becoming personal. It's when I was 16 years old. Northwest Iowa's Sheldon, Iowa, and I'm laying on the living room floor and I'm watching the television, a black and white television, trying to get the rabbit ears to get one of the 3 channels to come in. And I was just watching TV, and all of a sudden the phone rang, and my mom goes and she answers the phone. And she turned into this really nice lady right away when she answered the phone. But all of a sudden, I could tell right away, even though I'm watching TV, I'm locked into TV, I could tell that it was my sister from Michigan on the other end of the line. And I could tell that she was hysterical. I really didn't know why she was hysterical, but I kept listening to my mom, and pretty soon I figured it out that she was pregnant with their 4th child. And she didn't want to have another baby. She had 3. That's all she could have. That's all she wanted to have. So she's pregnant with this 4th child, and she's really being, distraught with my mom. And my mom's doing everything to de-escalate her. And honest to God, as I'm laying on the living room floor watching that black and white TV, I hear my mom say, "Sandra, we didn't want Bob either." And I went from a pro-life position to being deeply pro-life. God creates life. He ordains every day. Yes, everybody should want to have a Bob in their life. Amen? The other part of Scripture we like to talk about, those John 17, that's the high priestly prayer. And John 17 in the high priestly prayer, what it talks about is unity. It's about us coming together as a body of Christ and being one, so that a watching world would know that the Father and the Son are one. I hate to say, in our pro-life communities, all too often we're divided. And because we're divided and we turn the sharp objects towards one another versus keeping our eye on the goal, a lot of times we have self-inflicted losses. But in 2017, Maggie DeWitty, myself, and several others in the pro-life community in the state of Iowa, we came together and we put some benchmarks about what we could agree on. And the big thing we agreed on is that we're going to be together in this fight for the sanctity of human life. And because of Maggie, and because of her leadership, and because of the other coalition of pro-life members coming together, keeping the main thing with our eyes on the goal, Iowa is becoming a pro-life state each and every day. And thank you for your help with Pulse Life. And it's not just advancing policy, but it's also advancing candidates. It is no accident that Iowa has, I believe, arguably the most pro-life governor in the country in Governor Kim Reynolds. Amen. I would give her a standing ovation. And if you recall, in her election bid in 2018, when she was running against a pro-choice opponent, in the 3rd debate, they asked her what her line in the sand was. What, as a leader, she wouldn't compromise on. And that line in the sand was the sanctity of human life, and she has delivered results for the state of Iowa. But 2 other quick points before I exit stage left. Iowa gets an unbelievable opportunity to have a front row seat with the Iowa caucuses and selecting the next, hopefully, president, a pro-life president for this country. I remember in 2012, an OBGYN doctor was running for president by the name of Ron Paul. And Ron Paul and I went to the University of Iowa. And he was going to deliver a speech. It was a big crowd, packed with students, a lot of security there. But I remember what Ron Paul said running for president. He said, Republican or Democrat, I don't care. He goes, if a candidate cannot tell you where they are at on the sanctity of human life, If they are not crystal clear where they are at on the sanctity of human life, you can't trust them on anything else either. And in today's age, I believe Ron Paul would say the sanctity of human life is not something to be nuanced. It's not something to be poll tested. It's not a thing where the heartbeat bill was too harsh of a thing to be passed in the state of Iowa or the state of Florida. Ladies and gentlemen, in the next couple of months, we have an opportunity to choose, and to choose well, a champion for the sanctity of human life, and let Iowa be known that we launch somebody who we know what they believe on the sanctity of human life. Last thing. Darla and I have been blessed with 4 boys. She argues she has 5, but we have 4. I wanted my own basketball team. I wanted 5 boys. Our 3rd son was born with a very rare brain disorder, left him significantly disabled. Couldn't walk, couldn't talk, major seizure disorder. He went home to be with Jesus just a couple years ago after 28 years of life. But as we go into this abortion debate, I want to bring out another piece of scripture, John 9, verse 1 through 3. I tell you to go home and read it. John 9, verses 1 through 3 is when the disciples and Jesus happen upon a blind man. And the disciples ask a very real question of Jesus, and the question is this: who sinned? Did the blind man sin, or did the parents sin? Because somebody had to have sinned for this guy to be blind. And that piece of scripture rocked my world, because Jesus' response was, no one sinned. This is so the glory of the Father might be displayed. And I bring that up to you because the vulnerable children are in the vortex of they can be aborted. And every time we abort a Down syndrome child, or you abort some other disabled child, I think the glory of the Father is being robbed. We need to stand in the gap for all life. We are winning locally with the unity between Pulse Life, the family leader, and many others with Coalition of Pro-Life Leaders. We're winning in Iowa because of pro-life governor. Now let's win in the United States and cast that vision that the United States is still a beacon in the night, is a shining city on the hill for the sanctity of human life, and each and every life gets to live out each and every ordained day. Amen? Thank you so much for allowing me to be here.
Well, hello again. Just a quick reminder, our silent auction closes at 8:45, so keep bidding, and we have a live auction that you don't want to miss out on coming up. But now, it is my privilege to introduce a woman that has changed the lives of so many in the state of Iowa. Her roots are in Iowa as a 5th-generation Iowan from a working-class family in St. Charles. But even more important than her role as governor, I would venture to guess that she sees her most treasured roles as a wife, a mother, and a grandmother. As the first female governor in the state of Iowa, it is only fitting that as a woman, she advocates fiercely for women and families. And what's so refreshing is that you never have to guess where she stands on the issue of life. She is unapologetically pro-life, and we couldn't be prouder to have her leading the great state of Iowa. Please join me in welcoming a true pro-life champion, Governor Kim Reynolds.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. I can't even, oh, thank you. God bless you.
I can't even tell you that how full my heart is right now to look out into this room full of Iowans that are here to support and defend and fight for a culture of life, and to really do everything that we can to support Pulse, who is working so hard every single day to help us create that culture of life. So thank you so much. And thank you, Maggie, for that extremely, there you are, nice and kind introduction, and for everything that you do to support life. You are tenacious, you are a fighter, and I love so much working with you, so thank you for everything that you do. You know, this organization is at the center of a movement that has taken such great strides over the last few years on an issue that could not be more important, the sanctity of human life. For so long, Roe v. Wade was at the center of this battle, but it was always more than that. The pro-life movement has always been about showing mothers and fathers that there's another way, about showing the world that every life is precious. And now that Roe v. Wade is no more, that effort is even more important because there's a new battle now. One for the hearts and minds of every American. And we're facing a resistance, even from leaders that we didn't expect. You know, when I signed the heartbeat bill back in 2018, there were those that came up and said that it was going to be a mistake, that it would be the end of my political career. And I said at that time that I didn't care. And as it turns out, they were wrong. And when I signed the heartbeat bill for a second time this year, I heard some of the very same things, but I still didn't care. Because this isn't about me. It's about rejecting the inhumanity of abortion. It's about an ironclad commitment to the smallest and most vulnerable among us. It's about saving and caring for the unborn. A worthy battle, and one that I will never, ever concede. And that's what this movement has always been about. And we need to make sure that we have leaders who believe the same thing. And let me tell you, your guest, our guest tonight, absolutely does. In every action he takes, Ron DeSantis focuses on what's right, not what's politically popular or easy or convenient. Whether it's COVID or fighting to get indoctrination out of our schools, Ron is a leader who is driven by his faith and fighting for the people that he serves, who has stood up for the unborn, not just in words, but in actions. And he made sure that in Florida, every child would have a chance, because Ron thinks that it's a beautiful thing to save a beating heart, which is why he made it the law in Florida. So Ron and Casey are instilling those values in their children, and I know without a doubt that they would bring those values with them to DC. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is truly my honor and my distinct pleasure to introduce to you tonight Governor Ron DeSantis and the First Lady, Casey DeSantis. Please give them a big old Iowa welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Got that. There's that.
All right.
There's that. Okay. All right. Well, the moment, a little bit, there we go. The moment you've all been waiting for. to hear from Governor Ron DeSantis and Casey DeSantis. So thank you so much for being here. Absolutely. So, you know, our theme tonight is raising pro-life children, and that's our newest project. And so we're going to just start right off the bat and ask you, you know, you guys have a young family, and you're doing it, and you're raising, hopefully, pro-life children. So why don't you share a little bit about what you guys are doing to raise pro-life children?
Well, I can just say we are doing quite a bit. You know, one of the things that is really important to me, and somebody said this along the way in our journey, they said, you know, when you are handing your child over to somebody, whether it is a caretaker, whether it is an educator, whether it is a family member, you have to think about your children's life as an open book, right? And you're giving that person the opportunity to write a page in your child's book. And so you want to ensure that they're instilling the values that you believe in, a culture of life and decency and of truth and of family values. And so that's one of the things that we really hold dear. And also when you look at what's happening in our school systems and you look at this indoctrination, you have to stand strong in defense of that. And we've really tried to do that in the state of Florida, and also with the kids, going out, me personally, showing that every life has value and worth, and showing the kids going out and volunteering and getting them involved in the community, and showing that everyone has the opportunity to live up to their God-given potential. And that's something that we want to provide the kids with, the opportunity to help particularly people in need.
When, so our first child was born, so she's going to turn 7 on Wednesday. Time flies. When her brother was conceived, the way we told friends and family is we had our oldest, who was probably not that old at the time, just holding the ultrasound of her little baby brother. And so that's a picture she's always going to have. And then when we had our third, we had both the brother and the sister holding the ultrasound of their soon-to-be baby sister. So I think when you see it in those terms, and this is going to be something that they'll carry with them for the rest of their lives, everything Casey said obviously is the truth. But, you know, man, that's powerful. They had that picture there thanks to science and technology that they knew they were going to have these siblings come along the way.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic. So, you know, one of the things that we hear all the time in the pro-life movement is that we only care about the baby in the womb and we don't care about the baby after they come, right? And it's completely false, as all of you know. So you have a program called the First Ladies Hope Florida, and a fatherhood initiative in Florida. Could you share a little bit about that?
So, you know, we are of the mind when much is given, much is expected, right? It's not about us, but what do you do to be able to do good on behalf of other people? And so one of the things that I realized being First Lady of the state of Florida is you have the opportunity to get a lot of really good people in the room to communicate about best solutions, particularly as it pertains something very near and dear to my heart: single moms, children in the foster care system, children aging out of the foster care system, adoptive families, pregnant mothers, and also pregnant mothers who are battling substance abuse. And what can we do, and how can we think differently? Because, you know, oftentimes prior to the governor getting into office, there were people in need. And what would typically happen is someone would come into the, quote, system, and I think it's because there's a speaker right here, so I'm going to get really close to you. And it's because I love you to death, but also I don't want to blow anyone's ears out. So I think what was neat about what we did is, you know, we're trying to be able to help people in a meaningful way. And so when people were coming into the Department of Children and Families, which is traditionally the agency within government that is helping people in need, what traditionally would happen is someone would say, well, here is a government assistance payment, you know, you will see you in 6 months, you know, I hope it goes well, and that was the end of the conversation. But what we knew is that there are so many good people on the ground who are willing to do wonderful things. It's just there were people in need, and then particularly the faith-based community and the nonprofit community who didn't know that they were there. So we changed how we service and we help people, particularly single moms. So if you have somebody coming into the system, instead of getting a government assistant check, although we will help them with that, we will literally give an immediate alert to our participating faith-based community. So let's say if a single mom is having a hard time putting food on the table and they need bunk beds and mattresses or book bags or what have you, we literally have somebody who is inputting that into an electronic system. It goes out to our participating faith-based community. We have 16.5 million people of faith in the state of Florida. They see that in real time. They're like, yeah, absolutely, we can help. And then they deliver all of those needs to that single mom's front doorstep. So what government has really transformed. So government has transformed now as a convener and a collaborator between good people in need and good people who have always been there, but they didn't know that they were there. And we've been able to help people, particularly to single moms, by tapping into the Fatherhood Initiative as well, because we see one of the greatest things that you can do, particularly for children who have very troubled beginnings, whether it's abuse or neglect, is to provide mentorship opportunities. And the governor has devoted a lot of resources, Ron, to that, and have been able to provide opportunities for those single moms in particular.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think there's a lot of problems in our society that we can address, but if I had a wish to just do one, snap my fingers, I think if we could ensure that every kid was growing up with not just a mother, but also a father in the home, that would solve a lot of these other problems that we see. And I started to get involved in this my first year as governor. We had provided some support for some of these nonprofit groups. One of them is called All Pro Dads, which was done by Tony Dungy, who was the coach of Tampa and Indianapolis. And I remember the first year as governor, Tony came to lobby me on it to my office, or maybe he called me, I don't know. And I'm just like, Tony, man, you don't got to lobby me. Like I love you. If you think this is good, I'm for it. But he started explaining to me, he's like, look, when he would go minister to prisoners, because he's a Christian and would go into prisons and really try to talk to these guys. He said, I did it, and I realized they weren't there because they were poor or their race or all this other stuff that you typically hear. He said, not having that father figure is what led them astray, and that's what he said. So what we're doing is providing support resources to enhance fatherhood, promote awareness about it, have expectations, but also just if we can provide kids with a mentor, somebody taking an interest in a young kid could make all the difference. I mean, when I was in the Navy, I did the Big Brother program. So I mentored a youth. We were in Northeast Florida at the time from Jacksonville. His father was in prison, so he didn't have a dad in the home. So I did this, and I don't know how long I did it for, maybe a couple years. Lo and behold, he ended up, when he got out of high school, joining the Navy and having a productive career serving our country. I don't think he would have made that choice had I not been there in this Big Brother program. So that's what we're trying to do in Florida, and I think it makes a big difference.
And I would assume that this is something you'd like to bring on a national scale. It sounds like it's wildly successful in Florida.
Yeah, and I think just the general approach of what the First Lady spearheaded, when people go in, this care portal is how all these groups plug into. So we have all the churches, synagogues, but we also have businesses. We also have nonprofits and even individuals, so that when there's a need, it goes out, people snap into action. And you know what? When the church gets involved, that person doesn't really seek government assistance ever again most of the time, because they're on a pathway to self-sufficiency. They're being taken care of by people in the community who care about them. Yes, I have a bias in terms of wanting faith to be there, because I think that can lift people up. I mean, it's not just about checks. It's about soul craft as well, and this gives an opportunity to do that. So we're going to do that in terms of some of these federal programs, because we have so much energy in this country of good people, but it's like government is often a roadblock. And think about veterans. I remember when I left the Navy, they gave me a packet, and I didn't need anything, I was fine, but I'm like, I don't even understand this stuff. It's such bureaucrat nonsense, and so people go into the VA, they don't get services and all that stuff. What if you had a portal, you walk into that VA, your needs are there, then every veterans group in your community is plugged in. Businesses are plugged in, even just individual volunteers. A veteran's having a hard time, someone's like, you know what, I'm gonna go and I'm gonna take the veteran to lunch. Just let them know I thank you for your service and I care about you. That can make the difference between somebody deciding not to commit suicide. So we're going to take that model, but yes, we're going to harness the faith-based community to be able to generate positive outcomes with programs that have typically not done that.
And he brings up a really good point. Since we launched this in late 2021, we've been able to transition off nearly 10,000 people from government assistance because it's on a pathway to economic self-sufficiency and tapping into the resources that are there. And he's right, it's a philosophical different approach to the way government operates. It's not coming in, getting a check, and then you're off to the races and, you know, everything, we hope it goes well. It is going in and seeing how government can communicate, collaborate, and then get out of the way. And we're doing that with the Veterans Affairs. To his point, man, what does that do if the faith-based community knows that there's a veteran down the street now because you have government coming in here as far as knowing that that veteran is there, and somebody shows up on his front doorstep with a plate of lasagna just to say, you know what? Thank you for your service. Thank you for everything you've done. We've been able to facilitate that. We've also been able to tap into the Department of Juvenile Justice, so there are a lot of kids who need hope and opportunities. The number one thing, we have children come through and meet with us, and they talk about how they were able to overcome adversity. These are kids who have been through the Department of Juvenile Justice, but now they're class presidents, and they're going to college for the first time in their family. And I ask every single one of them, and this goes back to the mentorship, every single one of them, the same question: how did you get here to the governor's mansion? What was it? And it was because somebody took an interest in my life and gave me value. So now, you incorporate the faith-based community and the nonprofits into that in a system where somebody shows up and they want to make a difference. And so we do that with Elder Affairs. How nice would it be for a senior citizen who's sitting alone to have somebody show up to say, hey, how are you doing? Are things, what can we do to help you? So, and what we've done is reduced the size and scope of government, because we've taken people who were traditionally creating and executing upon those grant payments, and we've transitioned them into navigators that are helping people get on a path to either economic self-sufficiency, prosperity, hope, what have you, purpose. And it's all about thinking differently about how government operates. The Great Society's put how many trillions of dollars, and what is the return on the investment? Yes, from the taxpayer, but also the return on the investment in helping good people who are in need. And I know that we're working with your great governor to take this same model to approach it to the legislature and the state here in Iowa. And I think it's a game changer if we just think differently about what is the proper limited and defined role of government.
Thank you. So, you know, as a fellow parent, I think one of the things that's really hard is that balance between your work and your family. And you guys are doing it, and you have your young family, and they're on the campaign trail with you. And the first time I met you guys was over in Grimes at the coffee shop. Just beautiful having those young children with you. But how in the heck are you doing it? That's the question, and everybody wants to know. How do you do it? How do you strike that balance, and how are you raising your kids along the trail with you?
Well, we try to bring them with them as much as we can, because we just want to spend time with them. We don't want to be absent. When they're with us during the week, we do their homework with them and homeschool and do all that. Now they're in school when we're back home in Florida. So it's just juggling. We learn something new every day. It's a very interesting process when you're running for president. It's not a normal thing. One of the reasons I ran for governor in the first place was because I was a member of U.S. Congress. We had our daughter at the end of my second term after I had been elected for a third term, so I go up for the third term. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I going and leaving my wife and daughter for 4 or 5 days a week? And then coming back? I was like, I don't really like that. So as governor, it's a very family-friendly job, because you can do whatever you need to do around the state. You usually could be home for dinner time, no questions. And I would say my first term as governor, I rarely spent the night anywhere else other than home. I would make sure to get home. And there was occasionally if I was traveling out of state, but that was much rarer. So we just try to be present as much as possible. But we also understand some of the things that I'm doing as governor and what I do as president, it's personal for us. When we're doing these education battles, yes, I'd like to think I would be strong and stand up for all these things if our kids were fully grown or if we didn't have kids. But the fact that we have these young kids, we're sensitive to what's going on in the schools. We're sensitive to ensuring that parents have rights to direct the education and upbringing of their kids. We're sensitive that parents can access the curriculum so that they know if they're trying to jam pornography in their fourth grader's classroom. You should know that as a parent. You should be able to object to that. So, and we had in Florida, we had, you know, one of the kind of the marquee battles that we had was over this parents' rights in education legislation, which basically said no sexualization of the curriculum, gender ideology, any of that in elementary school. And you'd think that that's kind of a no-brainer. Why would we even be having this discussion? Obviously, it is being done in other parts of the country. And so we felt strong that that was the right policy. The media, of course, did not like that and attacked us. The left, of course, did not like that and attacked us, which we expected that. But what we didn't necessarily expect was our state's most powerful company, someone you may have heard of, Disney, to come out and attack the legislation and fight against us on that. And you know, it was kind of funny that we had to do battle with that. Well, what most people said, you're not going to be able to beat them because they're too powerful. They get everything they want in Florida. But it would just so happen that no one had made more money for this company than me, because they were open in COVID in Florida during COVID. They were closed in California. They made a fortune in our state because we were open. And something that wasn't known as much, we actually got married at Disney World. That was her idea, not my idea. And so we did. They have a nice wedding chapel and everything like that. And they actually did a good job. So it wasn't like I was like out to get them, but if we can't draw a line in the sand and say we are going to stand up for the innocence of our children, then what good are you in elected office? And so we fought that fight against Disney. We won that fight against Disney, and the kids in Florida are better off for having done that.
You know, it's so obvious that you guys care so much about families. So, you know, as you're out and about on the campaign trail, what are you hearing from parents across the country as to what's important to them and what they're struggling with?
Well, I mean, she's done a lot with the Mamas for DeSantis movement, and she's done a lot in Iowa. I think they have all the counties have chairmen now, all 99 counties. She did a great in our re-election and was Florida governor with all that. But I think that the parents are concerned about the schools being used to pursue a political agenda at the expense of their kids. They're concerned about wanting to have meaningful choice in where they send their kids to school to begin with. I think as you talk to parents who have kids are a little bit older, they're really concerned about these universities and some of the stuff that's gone on. And we've gotten to see this just with pro-Hamas protests that you're seeing. In some of the most previously respected universities in our country, you have these students out there protesting in favor of a terrorist organization. It's really, really problematic. And so I think all those are really significant issues. I think parents are concerned about their own kids, of course, but also seeing these problems writ large across the country. What does that mean for the next generation or two generations? Are we going to be able, you know, Benjamin Franklin, when he walked out of the Constitutional Convention after having framed the Constitution, was asked, did you give us a republic or a monarchy? He said, a republic if you can keep it. You have to have citizens that have a good foundation in American freedom and understanding our rights come from God, not from government. All these key things. And I think people see that we're really losing that. So in Florida, we fought back on all those fronts. We've had more success than probably anyone thought was possible. And we're happy to do that. But this is an important fight. Parents' rights, making sure we're educating, not indoctrinating. I think the success of this country hangs in the balance about whether we win those fights or not.
Yeah, and for sure. And I would say, you know, it is, I never thought in a million years that anyone would ever use our children as vehicles to advance their ideology and their agenda. You know, you always thought that the kids were hands off. And so I talk a lot of moms and they'll say, you know, it's one thing you come after us with your policies, we can litigate it, we can show up at school board meetings unless the DOJ wants to investigate you as a domestic terrorist. But you know, but when you go after the kids, And they're so impressionable. And I think that's something that I didn't really realize until I became a mama, right? Like, they are so susceptible to somebody coming in and hijacking their innocence. And you don't realize that until you're there with a 6-year-old or a 5-year-old who's, you know, litigating with you, David versus Goliath or what have you. And it's funny, but it's also very serious. And so the other thing I would say I hear a lot about is public safety, especially when we're traveling out in other parts of the country and these cities that are defunding law enforcement and making these communities less safe, and also things that are happening, you know, by our southern border scares a lot of folks.
Yeah, for sure. So, you know, you've done a lot in the state of Florida on the life issue. And as I referenced in my talk, that we've had some blows in terms of life. And so a lot of people are saying life is a losing issue, and we should rethink how we, you know, go forward on the life issue. So what's your response to that?
Well, I think you made a good point about this Ohio, how much money was spent promoting it. So you have a situation where on these referenda, you have so much money flowing in to promote it, and then the media is 95% in favor of those. So it's created an imbalance. So what's the information flow that these voters are getting when they're going in there? And the fact of the matter is, like, you know, it's Republicans that are, you know, supposed to be promoting culture of life and everything. But if you look, a lot of these business guys, these Wall Street guys, they are not pro-life. And so they may support Republicans because they want lower taxes, but they're more apt to give to the other side when it comes to something like this. So I do think we've got a structural problem when it comes to these referenda. I look at Florida. We have, of course, the Heartbeat Protection Act, but they're trying to get on the ballot to do a constitutional amendment in Florida, and they would need 60%, not 50%. But the reality is, it's a very big, expensive state to be able to advertise in, and I guarantee you the other side would come loaded for bear. So I don't think that the people of Ohio, if they were presented with maybe a robust defense of Ohio's pro-life laws, I don't think they would have come out the same way. I just think there was a major imbalance of how that was going, and what the information that people take to the ballot box is that. But I'd also say this: when you are in a position of leadership, you know, why are you there? Are you there to just always choose the path of least political resistance, or are you there to actually do what you think is right? And the way I've kind of just governed myself in terms of all this is I just want to be able to look in the mirror and know I did the right thing for the right reason. And just let the chips fall where they may. But you can't contort yourself into a pretzel. You can't try to be something that you're not. Just tell people what you believe and let her rip.
So we've got a lot of Catholics in our audience, but also a lot of faithful people. And I understand you have a funny story about a baptism of one of your children.
This was funny, and this was when he was first elected governor back in 2019. So he tells it actually to be truthful. He tells it better than me. So he does play-by-play, and I'll do color with it because it is.
Well, it actually goes back. It actually goes back before we had kids, and so we were. And I told a little bit of the story last night. I mean, we didn't have kids. We were trying. So we happened to be in Israel. I was a U.S. congressman, and she came. So we did a trip. And we did a bunch of different things, but one of the things that she did was she got water from the Sea of Galilee to bring back, so that when we had kids and it came time to do a baptism, we would baptize with the water from the Sea of Galilee. And so she just had them in like these, I think she had like 2 just plastic bottles, what you're doing. And I'm thinking to myself, you know, TSA, it would make you spill that out. But you know, you go to Israeli security, and we were like, what are they gonna do? And we just showed it to them, and they're like, it's water, what do we care? Take it on the plane. You know, it's like common sense in Israel versus the nonsense we deal with in the United States. So anyways, we did it, we brought back, we eventually had our daughter Madison, and everything was good. Our son, Mason, was born in the spring of 2018. I was running for governor, and I was a member of Congress. And we're like, well, we're not going to be able to plan a baptism right now with any of this. So he said, let's just get through the election. And we did. And then we're like, you know what? People are going to be in town for our inauguration. Why don't we just do it at the governor's mansion? after my speech and not do a parade or anything. So we did that. My uncle's a priest, so he came in and kind of did it. And so we did it. Everything seemed fine. But we just left the water just out in part of the governor's mansion. Now, we were not used to people picking up after us. We're just middle-class people. We go, well, they have a staff there. And so we go off to the inaugural ball, all this other stuff, and the staff cleaned up everything in the room. Well, the staff saw a half-empty bottle of water, so they spilled it out and threw this away. So the next morning, I was like, where's our Sea of Galilee water? And she's like, I think it's just downstairs. I went downstairs. There was no more Sea of Galilee water. So fast forward another week or two, I'm at a synagogue in South Florida doing some of our pro-Israel outreach. And I just mentioned, I said, we don't have a bun in the oven right now, but we are out of water from the Sea of Galilee. And within 24 hours, there were people in Israel going into the Sea of Galilee, getting water, and they sent me back a big glass jar of water from the Sea of Galilee that I kept on my desk in the state capitol until Mamie was born, and we eventually used it for that.
And I always tell the kids, look with your eyes, don't touch with your hands, right? That's the last thing.
So you guys have spoken openly about your faith and how you leaned on that, especially during your battle, Casey, with cancer. So can you share how faith plays a role in your decision making and how you're going about the things that you're doing to be a governor and running for president?
Well, yeah, so when she was diagnosed with breast cancer, it was a big bomb for the family. And not that any of this stuff's ever easy, especially with cancer diagnosis, but I think when women with young children get it, it's a real serious blow, because you're thinking like you're going to have a 1-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 4-year-old that may not end up having a mother. So it was a tough time for us as a family, and then we decided, are we going to go public with this? But we said, we should, because she may be out of pocket and there's just going to be. So we went public with it, and it was a dark time, but I'll tell you, the prayers that we received from people throughout Florida and throughout this country really lifted up the family. It lifted up Casey, and it was very, very powerful. So that is just an example that we lived through personally. She handled it very well. It was not easy to do, but I think it's because we had so many people praying for us. I really think that God just carried her through that whole ordeal. So it's been meaningful, just how we live our lives, but then also in some of the trials and tribulations that you have when you go through this journey in life. But I also always remind people as a public official, my faith is who I am. And so it's just part of how I conduct myself. But our country is based on the idea that our rights are endowed by God, beginning with the right to life, as well as the right to liberty and the pursuit of happiness. That's in the Declaration of Independence. That's how our founders conceived of this country. It's based on the idea that there's a higher power, and people throughout our history have recognized that. So I think it's partly personal faith in God, but I think it's also just in America, as an elected official, when you swear that oath to support and defend the Constitution, that Constitution was framed against that backdrop in the Declaration of Independence to say this country is founded on the idea your rights do not come from government, they come from our Creator, the Lord our God.
And I have to say something about this guy, because we did have 4, 3, and a 1-year-old at the time, and it was, obviously you can imagine, it was hard just psychologically going through that, but going through 6 rounds of chemotherapy, 6 weeks of radiation, and 3 surgeries, this guy never left my side. And that speaks volumes about who he is as a person, right? Because he's running the state of Florida. He could be doing a million of things, but when I was getting chemotherapy, and it was not fun, he's sitting there for literally 6 and 7 hours at a time, there holding my hand when he could, when it wasn't covered in ice. And he was there just to support me. And all of the arrows that you see that he gets, to know the truth about who he is, That's a big deal. And you know, he talked about the prayers. That is so true. I got boxes and boxes and boxes of letters, and I began to think about other people who were going through a cancer diagnosis. And I said, all of these wonderful prayers of hope, and I would get stories from people talking about the importance of faith and staying strong. And I'm a stage 4 survivor of 20 years, and all of these things. I said, well, why am I just getting this? There are so many people out there who are suffering who need to see that too. And so we started doing something in the Florida where we were putting this all forward facing and allowing other people to pray for folks and to ensure that they know that they're being thought about and that they're being loved and they're being prayed for. And I think that that's a really big deal. But here's the other thing about that diagnosis. You know, the Lord works in mysterious ways, and I truly believe that, because prior to getting that cancer diagnosis, I don't think I would be able to come out and talk to a wonderful room of 500 people, right? I would never wish anything like that on my worst enemy. But I'll tell you what, after going through that, it has given me such faith, such context and perspective on life. It has given me the strength to do things that I never thought were possible, to be able to stand next to him and fight for our God-given rights and fight for our republic and fight for our way of life, which I think, by the way, is hanging in the balance. And so I see the challenges that the good Lord put me through that I did not understand at the time. I can't even begin to tell you how much I struggled, but it was faith that pulled me out when I had no other direction other than my family and the good Lord there to be able to support me. And I'm able to be here now to go across the United States of America to advocate for what I know in my heart to be true, because he put me through that and that test, and I came out stronger on the other side. And I think that should give a lot of people hope.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You know, I just cannot thank you both enough. I know there were a million different places that you could be, but we are just so blessed that you chose to spend some time with us talking from your heart about what is so important, and that's life. And I just want you to know that I have been praying for you and your family, and I will continue to do so. Thank you so much for being here.
God bless. Thanks so much.
God bless you.
You know, we've had some great speakers tonight, and we believe in saving the best to last. Now, how can you top some of the speakers we've had? They have been awesome. But we have one more speaker we are excited to bring up. Our final speaker is an amazing Iowa success story. She unseated the incumbent Iowa Attorney General, Tom Miller, who had been in office for about as long as I've been married. That's a long time. During the campaign, she showed up at a pro-life rosary we were doing at the Capitol. And she brought her son and she led us in the rosary. She didn't do this because it was good politics. She did it because she knows that prayer drives the pro-life movement. This woman worked hard in her campaign, and she has never wavered in her pro-life convictions. Please join me in welcoming the Iowa Attorney General, Brenna Bird.
Well, I am just so glad to get to be here tonight. Looking out at everybody here, I see a number of people that have been so active in the pro-life cause for a long, long time. And you help me too, and I appreciate your help. I appreciate what we were able to do last year, because we defeated, together with your help, the longest serving Attorney General in U.S. history, with your help. And the life issue was an important part of that campaign, wasn't it? Yes, it was, because we knew we needed to defend our heartbeat law in the court. And I still remember when I turned on the TV during election season, and it's dangerous to do that when you're a candidate, because you'll see all kinds of awful stuff they're gonna say about you, right? I turned on the TV, and what were they saying? They were running an ad clip where I said, I'm 100% pro-life. I thought, well, that's not bad. That's true. I believe that. I am 100% pro-life. And standing here today with you, we have a lot to celebrate. We have a lot of good things going on. We also have a lot of hard work ahead of us. And, we know that no life is more valuable or sacred than the right to life. And we know that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And we know that everybody is a child of God. Regardless of their views on abortion, we might say too, right? Everyone is a child of God. And all children, all people, deserve the right to be born in the first place. That is a basic human right that we all have, a God-given human right. Now, I think a lot of us had, lived under Roe v. Wade for so long, we thought that once Roe v. Wade was struck down, as it should be, because it was wrongly decided, we thought that maybe it would be a little bit like magic, right? There might be a few people who thought that. Well, the fact that Roe v. Wade was struck down and we got Dobbs, that was truly a miracle, something we've been praying for a long time. But the work is not over. And just because it's hard, it doesn't mean it's over. And in fact, it's good work to be doing because it gives us a chance to talk about life and to live out the pro-life promises that we make in our communities to make sure that women always have better options than abortion, that no one feels like that's their only choice and that they have nothing else that they can turn to. We know we've got a lot of work to do. And some of the work that we get to do in our office, I have to say, I just love doing it. We get to defend our heartbeat law, and I am so proud because here tonight we had our governor and our legislators, and when the first heartbeat law was tied by the courts, they went back and they passed it all again with a bigger margin than they did the first time. And that was something the negative naysayers never thought would happen, did they? But you proved them wrong. And the legislators who did that showed a lot of courage and worked hard and made it happen. And in our office, we put the full force of the Iowa Attorney General's office behind defending our heartbeat law. And it makes a difference when that happens. Last time around, our Attorney General refused to defend the heartbeat law, and that's changed completely. Do you know what else has changed? I'm gonna call somebody out tonight and maybe embarrass him just a little bit, okay? Dan Johnston, you're somewhere back over there, all right? That's one of the lawyers, in fact, I would say the lead lawyer in my office who's defending the heartbeat law here at this dinner tonight, along with his wife, Alyssa. So that's who you've got working for you in my office, people just like you. We had something else that was pretty neat. When you get sworn into office, you don't know what's gonna happen, and as a lawyer, we're used to suing people, I'll say that. But we heard of a little problem where pharmacies like Walgreens and CVS were going to illegally mail abortion pills into the state of Iowa. So we sent them a letter along with other AGs, good ones, pro-life ones from around the United States. And do you know what happened in response to that letter? They said they would not send any of their pills to Iowa directly to patients. We stopped them just with a letter. And we've also been holding Yelp's feet to the fire. If you know what that is, Yelp is something that rates different businesses or services because they had misleading information on there. They had a warning label for crisis pregnancy centers because they don't provide abortions. Well, that doesn't need a warning label. Everybody knows what a crisis pregnancy center is. And if somebody truly is pro-choice, don't they want all the choices to be available to people so that they can choose from the buffet of options? Well, we know that's not always true with the other side, but we held Yelp's feet to the fire and we made them change their conduct because what they were doing was misleading and it was wrong. Now, with all that, I may have left you with an impression that's not true. So I'm
perhaps should have mentioned this when I was running for office last year, but Attorney General is not the most important job I have. In fact, it comes in third. I'm Bob's wife, and Bob's here with me tonight. Yep. Anybody who knows Bob, you know he's awesome, so he's pretty easy to be married to. So I'm the hard one sometimes. And then I'm Beckett's mom. And Beckett's not here tonight, it's past his bedtime, but an Attorney General, it comes in third. And I think that's the way that it should be, so that I can serve you in the way that you deserve to be served. I was thinking about the topic of how do you raise a pro-life generation? Well, I have to think it had to be harder for my parents, because that was very different when abortion was much more accepted, and I think less was known. Think about what we have now to raise a pro-life generation. Well, Roe versus Wade is gone. We have laws like the heartbeat law here in Iowa. We have the science that is absolutely amazing, where when I look at the 3D ultrasound picture of one of my nephews, I can tell which one it is. And they look a lot like each other, but I can tell which one it is just by looking at them in the womb. We have the science, and we are seeing over and over the young people are more pro-life than those who are older, aren't we? Because they are exposed to reality, to what is real, to truth. And then we go to something like the March for Life in Washington, D.C., and I've had a few times where I've been able to be there with all the young people there. And it is one of those powerful things that just feeds your soul to see all these young people that care deeply about the cause of life, just like we do. And some might say even more strongly, because they understand just how important that is. That is a life-changing moment to get to witness something like that. And I'll also say that I think that those who are discouraged right now, I'm going to say this, I think you're wrong. Anybody who's discouraged right now about the cause for life, I think they're wrong. Because we had the miracle of striking down Roe versus Wade. We have a state that has a heartbeat law. We have young people who are becoming more and more pro-life with each passing year. The work is hard. It's not automatic. Roe versus Wade wasn't the only problem that we had for the culture of life. It was a significant one. But look at everything we have ahead of us, and look at everything that we are able to accomplish in this state. And look at how things are changing. So the pro-life cause is no longer about just pro-life laws. It's also about all of the different medical clinics and crisis pregnancy clinics that are springing up all over Iowa. There's even one within a couple miles of us near rural Dexter in Stewart. You know, think about that. We are tremendously blessed. We just have a lot of work to do. And when I hear about what happened in Ohio, I have to say that is something that we can learn from. We can look at that and see what we need to do. Obviously, one thing we have to do is raise more money than the other side, right? The cause for life, we should never be outspent. We are blessed, and we are all working towards that cause to protect innocent human life. We just have to work a little harder, right? And we can do it. We have what that takes. In fact, it is our privilege to get to do that, and I would argue that it's a generational opportunity. You know, there are some moments in life that when we look at them, when we're learning about history in school, we say, wow, what would I have done if I was alive then? I still remember what it was like when I learned about the Underground Railroad and what that was, where people would hide escaped slaves in their homes and send them on to the next stop to get freedom. You think, wouldn't it have been awesome to be alive during that time? Wouldn't it be awesome to be fighting that cause against slavery? Well, we're living in a time just like that, aren't we? We are. We just don't realize it because we're in it, but we're right in the middle of it. And we're at the part where when we keep on working hard, we keep on doing the right thing, we keep on praying, never, never, never stop praying. We know that victory is just around the corner. And we know that victory isn't just the heartbeat law. That is a significant one, and one that I'm so proud of our legislators and governors for. But it is more than that. It's about a place where no one feels like abortion is their only answer, or of all the bad choices they have, that's the one they have to pick. That is exactly what we want to have, to build that culture of life. That's what will transform not just America and the rest of the world. And the cause of life, it is a deep, fundamental human right, isn't it? And in time, our country will fully recognize it. We're almost there. We just have to keep on pushing. And you know what? It is looking good, I think. And with the people here in this room who've answered the call and continue to answer the call, it will only be better from here on out. And let me promise you this. As long as I have the opportunity to work for you as your Attorney General on the front lines fighting for life every day, you will always have an ally in the Attorney General's office, and the cause for life will always have an ally in the Attorney General's office. Thank you, and keep on fighting.
As Brenna said, we need to outspend the other side. We thank all of you who have already so generously given tonight, and we encourage those of you who are still thinking about it to really consider Pulse Life Advocates in your charitable giving this year. And then finally, I would like to thank our band, Saints and Sinners, for their great job tonight. Can we give them a big round of applause? We have Judy Schleisman on piano, Mark Pirtle on drums, Jim McCarthy on bass, Francois Lascelles on that haunting electric violin, Jeff Block on guitar, Marilyn Jerome, Sarah Jerome, Hannah Jones, and Elise Kerr on vocals. And we would like to ask you to close the evening out with, if you can think of a good Christmas song that everyone could sing to, that would be kind of cool. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Happy New Year.
with us. Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin mother and child. Holy infant, so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in
Thank you all for being here, and feel free to enjoy our after party. Thank you. Good night.
Thanks.